Alright, so welcome back again. So in the previous tutorial, we saw how to build some models, right? We saw how to use the data science lifecycle to be able to build some models. So in this session of the tutorial, we'll be trying to build our app with the models that we built in the previous tutorial. So let's see what we'll be building again, so that in case you are starting from scratch, you can know what you'll be building at the end. So this is a simple app which is going to be used to predict if a patient that is having hepatitis B is going to live or not live, right? That is mortality of a disease. So let's check what we'll be doing. So if I go back to the sidebar here, I can just create an account. Go to the menu bar, we have the login, the sign up. So let's create an account. Because it's a health app, we are trying to restrict people who are not authorized, right? So only just some specific type of people. So let's create another one. Let's call this patient 1, right? Then the password is going to be, let's say, patient, right? That is the password. So the password we are using here is patient 1, and then we will be using this option of confirming it. So it's going to come back here, then patient, right? Perfect. So the moment it is confirmed, right? If it's the same thing, it's going to tell us the passwords are the same, right? So valid password confirmed, right? Perfect. Now we can just click on submit. Then we can just go back. You have successfully created a new account. Then just go back to the sidebar. Then I just go back to the menu. I go back to the menu, and then from here I can just log in, right, with the password that we created. So I just go back to this place. Okay, no problem. Let's move on straight away with this, right? Then I just come back to the sidebar here, click on username patient, can't spell, patient 1. Then the password is going to be patient, right? That was the name, that's the password that we used. Perfect. So if it's correct, then it's going to log in perfectly for us. So login, there's going to be state login because of this thing that we are using the checkbox, right? It's good. Analyzing it. Perfect. So we are already logged in. So welcome patient 1. Then from here I can select the various things I can do. So let's reduce it. So we can see that we have our tasks, the various activities you can do. You have the plot, the normal plot, we have the predictions. So let's go back to the prediction, and then we can see what you can do. So inside this place, the person can place in the parameters, right? So the limit based on the data set that we used was 7. So that's why we have 7, not less than 7. So let's put another age for this one. So let's make it as, let's say, 35. Then we will move on to the gender, and then the number. Does the person take steroids? Yes. Does the person take antivirals? No. Is the person having Spider-9V? So we will select all the various parameters that we want. So after that, it will just predict for us, right? So something like this. So let's choose that the person have Spider-9V, and then the person is having ascites. So that's going to be yes. Then again, let's move on to the other ones, right? So does the person have viruses, right? That is either Cabus medusa or esophageal virus or any of the viruses. Then let's specify the bilirubin content. So let's make that 6. Then the alkaline phosphate. All these things are chemicals that are released from the body as or proteins or biochemical, that is biochemistry, right, rather, for the human body. So let's make it a 7. Then the SGOT, which we can specify a particular value, let's say 10. If it exceeds the limit, it's going to tell you that it is exceeding the limit. Then after that, we just come back to the albumin. So the albumin is not going to be more than 3.5. We can make it 3.2, but let's make it 3.5. Then prothrombin time, which is a very essential feature based on what we did previously. Let's make it as 12. Hopefully it's no more than that, right? And then I can specify the last one. Yes, right. Histology. So it's going to analyze them and give us all the parameters that we selected in the format of a JSON file, right? Something like this. Then from here we can now click on the particular model we want to use. So let's use logistic regression. We have logistic regression, KNN, and then decision tree. The power is in your hands. Now click on predict. Then it's going to predict perfectly for us. So something very simple. So the patient dies, right? So based on the parameters we have, the patient is going to die. Then it's automatically going to give us the prescriptive analysis to help the patient live long, right? This is automatic, right? Not like automatic, but it's something just to make it interesting. So these are the recommended lifestyle. If the patient did not die, this thing is not going to come, right? So let's try something else so that you see the difference. I'm just going to change some of them. You see that the patient is alive. But even with this one, we can even see the probability of the patient being alive or dead, right? So this we choose a male, it's automatically going to change the avatar, and it's going to be the probability. So 74% sure that the patient is going to live, right? It's going to die, right? That is 74, and then for the live is 25%. Then you can also interpret it, then which is going to tell us the reason why the patient is going to die. So let's see how to build this simple app from scratch. Right, so we'll be starting from scratch. So I'll just come back here and I'll close it, and then we'll start everything from scratch. So let's go back to our terminal. Then let's stop this one, and then let's create another one. So we'll be going into our project that we're working on. So this is what we're working on. So let's create another stuff. So let's put as a hep app, right? Hepatitis app, and seed into hep app. Then inside the hep app, let me make it bigger. We'll be creating two folders. So mkdir, we'll create our models folder and our data folder. Then I'll also create my app.py. Perfect. So if I check it as 3, you can see that we have the app.py where our app is going to be, the data where we put in our data set, then the models where we put in the saved model. So let's open it with Sublime. Then we start writing some code. So let's start. So this is the file. This is where our stuff is going to be. So we started from scratch. Just come back here. Then we're going to load our core packages. Right. So import Streamlit as st. Right. Then from here we will just move on to the next section, which is going to be our EDA packages. So we're using pandas to help us with that. So import pandas as pd. Then you also need to import numpy to help us with our reshaping of our data, right? np. Then we can also import some other utilities, which include we'll be importing OS, we'll be also importing joblib to help us with our loading of our model, right? These are the basic stuff we'll be using for now, right? Then let's also work on our database packages, which in this case will be importing matplotlib. So matplotlib.py plot as plt. Then you import cbon as sns, right? That is in case you'll be using cbon, but I don't think we'll be using cbon, so let's take it out. And then let's set this parameter to help us with that. So this, copy this one here. Then we're going to be using matplotlib.use agg, right? Perfect, that's all. So let's move on straight away to what we'll be doing. So we're going to create our main app function. So def.main, which is going to be where all our app is going to be. So let's call this one as mortality prediction app, something like that. This is mortality, then pass, then it's going to be E.Agbe, right? Perfect. So that is all. So all the, you can create it in this particular way, or you can create individual functions and run it inside our main. So let's see how to do that. So just be coming from above here, we will create our, so let's work on it here. So I'll just go off this and go with st.markdown, or you can just use title. And I pass in let's call it as disease mortality prediction app, right? So apologies for the noise behind. Thank you. So that is something simple. Now let's create our menu. We'll create our menu, which is going to take our home, and then it's going to take our login, and then our sign up, right? That's going to be our menu. Then let's create another sub menu, which is going to be for the restricted part, right? So this is going to be our restricted part. So we're just going with our plots. Then let's go with our prediction, right? These are the only ones I will be doing. Perfect. Let's create our choice so that the person can be able to choose it. It's going to be my st.sidebar.select box. And then from here, I'll just go with a menu. Then I'll pass in my menu. Perfect. So if the choice that the person chooses is equal to home, then the person is going to be brought to the home section, which is going to be st.subheader. Then I'm going to put in as home, right? Something like that. Perfect. So inside this place, you can just give some description of what hepatitis is. So what is hepatitis, or what the app does, right? Then we can also use markdown to help us to beautify this place, right? So that is something we can do later. But let's move on to the other aspect. So else else if the choice is equal to login, right? So this is going to be the login session, which is going to go with the st dot. Let's go with the username, because the person must be able to log inside. So username is equal to st dot sidebar dot test input, which is going to take the test input of the username, right? Username. Then we just go the same way for the password, right? So this is going to be for password, which the person can use to log in, right? Password. Perfect. Then after that, let's hide the password. The type is equal to password. That is all, right? Perfect. So that is all. Let me expand it. Perfect. So we are done with that. Now let's create a button. So if st dot checkbox sidebar dot check box, right? If it's go to login, then you'll be logging inside we log in the user right into whatever we'll be doing. So for now, let's go with, let's say if password is equal to, for now let's go to 1 2 3 4 5, right? Then you'll be able to work on it. So st dot sub success, then just tell the person that, let's say, welcome to the user format username, right? So there's going to be something simple, right? So that is all. We are done with it. Now in case it doesn't work, so else, that is if the password is not correct, you're going to tell the person that st dot warning incorrect username / password. That is all, right? Perfect. So that is something simple. So if it is successful, that is it. So, and if the person is able to log in, then from here we're going to give our sub menu. So let's put as our activity. We can just give it as a name, activity, which is or we can call it as tax, anyhow you want it to be. Then we will just give it as st dot select box. Now pass in my stuff. So this is going to be my activity that the person can do, or sub menu activity. Then I pass in my sub menu, right? And then from here, so if the activity is equal to plot, then just bring the plot, right? st dot subheader database plot, right? Then the next one is else if activity is equal to prediction, then just pass in st dot subheader like predictive analysis, something like that, right? Then here we can also add another option in case you want, like we have plot, we have prediction. We can also add another thing, like let's say metrics or something, or analytics like metrics. Then that is going to be the default, right? Something like that, as you wish. So let's see what you have done so far. So I'll just come back to the location of the app, then I'll just run it with Streamlit run app.py, which you use your default browser to open. Also going to give you a port that you can listen on, right? That is the basic idea behind it. So whilst it's doing that, let's copy inside our data. So just go back and then copy to the data folder. We copy into our data folder and our models folder, our data set and our models, right? Come back here into the data set, right, into the data folder. Now paste in my data set here, and the same thing for the models. I've pasted in the model that we'll be using. So let's go back and see what I just opened. That's open perfectly for us. So I'll just copy this one here, copy this URL, copy the link, and then you paste inside our browser, right? We are using Chrome. You can use any browser that you want, but let's use Chrome. And then now let's close off this one. Perfect, right? So our app is working perfectly. So if I go back to the sidebar, now we can see that we have what we need to use, right? So if I go to the sidebar, we have our home, we have our login, right? Whereby you can see that the login is option is being shown, username and then password. So let's work on our sign up too. The sign up is empty, so let's work on it. So I'll just come back to the same place. And let's come down. So we have our login, else the next one is going to be the login, right? So checking out it, perfect. So else, our choice, let's go to sign up. If that is the case, then going to go with my new user, new username. It's going to be st.testinput. Like user name, right? Perfect. The next one is going to be my new password. It will be st.testinput, then password, then the type is going to be password. Then let's create another one for the confirming. So let's call it as confirm password. It's going to be st.testinput, same thing above, password, then the type, password. Then this is how we do the confirm. So it's going to be something like this. So if the new password is equal to the confirmed password, right, then tell the person that password confirmed, right? Password confirmed. Then we can say else st.warning, password not the same, right? Passwords are not the same, password not the same, right? Something like that. That is all that we need, right? Very interesting. Then we need to create a button to help us with that. So if button is going to come here, if st.button submit, can't spell submit. Then from here we're going to be creating our table, right? So we're using SQLite behind the scene to store our database. So let's call it that one as, let's go and work on that. So save this one here, pass, right? So let's check what you have done. So now if let's always run and let's see what you have. So we have our username, our password, and telling us there's a duplicate ID. So we can just specify a particular ID if you want, or you can just change the name for the password here to, let's say, so testing password, let's call this one as confirm password, right? So that it's working perfectly well. So we have password and confirm password. Now let's add the backend to it. So I'll just go back again to the sidebar, right? Not to the sidebar, but to be adding our backend. So let's create another file and let's call this one as manage.db, right? As we have been using always. So in the same place, I'll call this one as my manage.db, or I can call it migrate, anyhow you want it to be. So manage.db.py or manage.py, it can be anyhow you want it to be. Then we importing SQLite 3, then you set the connection and the rest. So in that case, it's going to be my connection. It's going to be my SQLite 3.connect. We're connecting to our users data.db. This is for the password. Then I'm just going to create my cursor con.cursor. Right, that's what we need, right? Now let's create our functions to help us with that. So creating a simple function for the table. So create users table. Then we'll be using the normal SQL that we do. So execute. Now passing create table if not exist. If the table does not exist, right? Name of the table is going to be user table, users table, right? Then I'm passing the parameters. So these are the individual fields. So it's going to be my username and then the password. You can also add an ID to it if you want, but let's make it simple, right? So this will take on my test. Then this is also going to take another data type of test. That is all that we need, right? So this is going to help us to create our users table. Perfect. So the next one is going to be our adding the user. So be using insect to help us with that. So what I will do is that I will paste them so that to save us time, and also we keep on doing it over and over again. So let's paste it, right? So what you are doing is that we are just creating one to create the users table, right? As we learned earlier on in another tutorial some long time ago. Then also adding the user table data, right? We are using insect. Then want to create the login users, right? This to help us with our login. Very interesting. So that is what we're doing. So we'll be importing that one from here. So let's import it. It's going to be our db. So from manage db dot manage import all, right? So we are importing it from this particular file, right? That's the basic idea. So let's save it. It must be in the same location with the main file. So now that's imported it perfectly well. So we'll come back to this place here, right? If the person presses the button, what we'll do is that we're going to initialize the create table, create users table, user table, right? Remember from here, this user table from here, user table, right? Create, you can make it users table, but let's call it create user table. Then from that place, we will just add in our data, right? To add data, then we are passing in, we are adding this particular data. So we're using this add user data. This to help us with our creating of our sign up, right? So the person has entered the details, then we are storing that details into our database, right? That's the basic idea. So I'm going to pass in my new user name and then the password. So here we can, this is where we can actually hash our password, right? So you can use bcrypt, you can use passlip, or you can use any other one. So we'll be using hashlib to make it simple for us, but you can use any of them as you wish, right? So we can make it like, let's hash it first. So I'm going to call it as my hash new password. Then I'm going to create a function to be used to hash them. So I'll come back to the top of my file here, then let's create a function. So def.generate hashes, right? And I'll pass in the password. Then from here, if I pass in the password, I'm going to be using hashlib to help us with that. So be importing hashlib from the top. So let's import hashlib as part of the details. So import hashlib. You can use any of them. You can use passlib, can use bcrypt. These are all the particular alternatives you can use, but let's use hashlib, right, for simplicity's sake. So import hashlib, then I'll use hashlib to create a simple hash. We'll not be adding sort to it, but you can also add sort in case you want. So hashlib dot secure hashing algorithm 256. Then I'll pass in my string dot encode, be encoding the password, converting it to bytecode, so password. Then we'll be using the normal digest to help us with that, right? So dot hex digest. That is all, right? So this function is going to be used to help hash our password. So let's go to password. Then let's create another one to check it to verify password. So verify password or verify hashes, anyhow you call it. So verify hashes. Then this is going to take two arguments. Going to take the password itself, then the new or the hash test, right? Hash test, right? Then if my going to, anytime the person passes in a password, you are going to hash it, right, using the generate hashes to that particular password. And going to compare it against our hash test. If it is true, right, return the hash test. If it is true, return the hash test. Else, if it's not true, return false, right? So return false. There are several ways you can do that. You can use the inbuilt verification of hashes from passlib or bcrypt in case you are using that one, but I want us to use something that is simple for everybody to use. Perfect. So let's come back to the same place here, and then now we are going to hash our password. So it's going to be generate hashes, and I'll pass in my new user password, right? Then I'm going to pass in that new user password, the one that we have hashed, right? So we are storing the hashed information into our database. Perfect. That is all. From here I can just go to st.success and tell you that you have successfully created a new account. Apologies for the noise behind. Okay, perfect. That is all. Then let's go to st.info, tell the person to log in to get started. So log in to get started. So let's save and see what you have done so far. I'll come back to the stuff that you have been doing. Let's check it out. Everything is working as expected. So let's try and create a simple account. So it's going to be let's go straight away with something simple. So let's call that test1. Then the password is going to be test1. Then I'm going to convert it again, test1. Right, so move the one above and the one below is the same thing, test1, then submit. So name password is not defined, so we made a mistake somewhere, right? So this is supposed to be double S, so we made a mistake, so we're going to fix that one out. So let's check it out. Password. Okay, so we're going to go to the top. Yeah, right, this is where we made a mistake, right? So save this one now. Let's come back again. Now if I click on submit, password confirm, perfect, you have successfully created a new user account. Now let's go back to our login, right? So come back to the login, then you have to apply that particular same function on our login session. So that means it's going to be like this. So let's bring it here, go back to the login session. So now we don't be using 1 2 3 4 5, you'll be using the hashed password that we generated above, right? So that's what we'll be using. So what we'll be doing that if the person click on the button, we're going to create our table, initialize that particular function, then we're going to say that our hash password, so let's go to hashed PSD, right? Then we're going to use the generate hashes and we'll pass in our password. That is all, right? Then we're going to check and see if it is the same. So we have taken off this, so comment this one out so that you can also use it in the future. There's going to be my result, then use the login user, right? You're using the login user function. So the login user is going to take the username, then the password, right? It's going to take both the hashed password as well as the initial password. So here is where we're going to be using our verify hashes, and I'm passing my initial password and then the hashed password. Right, that is something simple. So let me explain it again. So we are using this login user, which is coming from our manage.db, this particular function, right, to help us get and check the database. If the username and the password is inside our database, then you grant the person access. If it's not there, you're not going to give the person access. That is the basic idea behind it. And then we are storing inside this particular variable result. So if it is there, it's going to return true. Then we can now say if the result, you log in. If it is not there, the person is going to be given this particular error message, right? So let's save it and see what you have done so far. If I come back here, now we can just check back to this place. So we use test for the other time, so test, right? Then the password, it was test1 rather, then the password here is now going to be test1. So this is going to be hashed, right? Because that's what has been stored into our database. Now click on login, perfect. So now it has been able to work perfectly. So welcome test1, right? Everything is working as expected. So our inside our database, the data there has been hashed, not plain test, rather hash test, right? Perfect. So we have seen how to create our sign up option, right, in which we are going to enter the username, the password, and a confirm password, and we're going to hash it and send it into our database. And then we have also seen how to create a login session, right, which is going to store the data inside our stuff. So if I go back and I open this, our data that we have, where is it? Right, if I check this one, if I use any of these things to open, right, I can't find any app, but let me get an application. You can also open it with Python anyhow. You're going to see that particular password has been hashed. So I've installed a particular package to help us open it. So if I go with this open with DB browser, you'll be able to see that that particular column which was hashed is already stored in hashes, right, not plain text, right? So if I go back to this same place, we had our browser data, and now it's a hashed format, right? So consider it has been hashed in this particular format. That is the best way, but this kind of hashing is just without salt, so that means it's not the best, but you can also add salt to it. So let's go back, let's close this one, and let's go back. So we start again. Now we are done with most of the app, so let's move on to the other aspect of the app, whereby we go with the plotting, the prediction, and then the metrics. So let's check for the plot. So the plot is going to be something simple. So we have our plot. We'll be using pandas to help us read our data set. So it's going to be df pandas pd.read_csv. Then we move into our data folder. Then we read our clean. So this data set is the one that we saved, which we have been using, right? So if I go back to my data folder, we have clean hepatitis data set and clean the frequency data frame that we created. So that's what you'll be trying to read. So clean hepatitis dataset .csv, right? That's what you're reading. Then from here we'll be able to plot it out, right? So you can just use a normal plot. It can be st.dataframe to see what you have done. So let's save it and let's check it out. So in case you have been able to log inside, so come back to sidebar. Then let's use the same thing we did. So test1, the password was test1, login. Then I'll move on to that side, right? Just logged in perfectly, right? So see that now our data set is there, right? Very interesting. So we can actually plot it. So let's just plot the class. So let's give a simple plot, which is going to be my df, the class option, right? The class column. Then which is going to be dot value count. So value count dot plot. The kind is going to be bar, right? Then st.py plot. You can also add a colors picker to help make it beautiful, but we can just maintain it like that. So that's perfect. That's giving it to us in a very nice, perfect, simple plot. That is the first plot. Now let's move on to work on our frequency distribution plot. So in that case, is going to be my fric df. Then the same thing that we use pandas to read, we're going to use pandas to read that particular data set, which is data inside our data folder. Then we have our fric, this particular one, right? Fric df, that's what you're trying to open. So fric data frame hepatitis dataset.csv, right? That's what you're trying to read. Then here too, we can also do any of these plots. You can just go to st.bar charts and I pass my df frequency distribution plot, just the count. If I save it and let's come back and check and see. So bringing it to this side, it's loading it. It's going to load that particular plot for us, right? So the plot is there, right? Very interesting. And that plot is also there, right? The arrangement can be anyhow you want it to be. That is something very simple. So let's bring this one at top. These are something simple to make it look interesting. Now let's check for the area charts. So you can add a lot of charts if you want, but we want to be fast because we have been spending a lot of time in the previous tutorial and then we are trying to build something cool, right? So it's going to be if st.checkbox. Yeah, using the area chart to help us. So area chart, and then we'll be plotting that one for the entire stuff, right? To give some interesting, something simple on it. So in case you are not subscribed to this channel, you can also subscribe, and please check the link below for some interesting materials to help you master machine learning and then Python. So using the df dot columns to list so that the person can be able to select it. Then I'll call it the feature choices, st.multi select, I'm passing choose a feature or a column, then I'll pass in my clean column. So clean columns, we can call it all columns anyhow you want it to be. Let's call it as all columns so that at least it matches, right? All of them have been cleaned already, so let's call this all columns. Then I'll create my new data frame. New data frame, which this new data frame is going to take my old data frame, and then we're going to pass in our feature choices, then st.area. So this area chart is coming from Streamlit, right? So let's save it and see what we have done so far. So I'll come back to this side. Perfect. So we have our value count for the class. We have another bar simple plot, or the bar H plot, the bar charts rather. Then for the area chart, if I click on this area charts, we can see that we can have the option of selecting different choices. So you can choose a particular feature, can select any of them, or based on the particular feature. So if I go with sex and I put on another one, like let's say age, right? So you're going to see the area chart, right, in a very simple format, generating all the charts with their colors, right? Very nice and very simple. That is for the plot aspect. Now let's move on to the prediction aspect, right? Quickly. So just go back to the prediction aspect, which is empty for now. So here we'll be creating locations or creating input places that the user can put in his values, right? Can set or change the parameters. Then we use the same thing to do our prediction. So let's try it out. So I'll come back to the same place here for the prediction. And what we'll be doing is that we'll be trying to use all that we have learned so far, right, to help us with that. So we'll be applying them there. And we learned that there were some features that we could use, not all the features, but the features we used to train our model, not the 19 features, but the 14 features that we were using. So let's work on it. So it's going to be, we had our, let me copy it so that we have it as reference. Right, so these were the ones that we used. So let me put it at the top here. So these were the features that we used, right? So that's what we'll be trying to use to help us with that. These were the features that we used from our data set. So we will be using those ones to help us with that. So we had age, sex, steroids, antivirus, fatigue, and the rest. So these are the only ones we'll be creating entry point for, right? So that the person can put in his data. So let's go with age. It's going to be st.number input. We are using number input to help us with that. I'm passing the age. Right. And based on that, what we had, the limit of the age was like 7, right? So 7, then the highest was 80, right? So let's go back and check it again. So now it's going to give us 7, and then the highest limit was 80. So if I go with 81 or 98, it's going to give us an error, right? Very interesting. So that, because that is how our data set was, we want to add some restrictions to our input, right? Perfect. Now for the sex 2, we had it as st. Let's use st.radio. We're using radio button, so radio, then sex, or we can call it gender. Then this is going to be in the format of a yes and no, right? So in our previous tutorial, we saw that if you go back to what we did, right? Where is it? Okay, here. If you go back to, I've forgotten where it was, but yeah, let's check it out. If I go back to the raw data, right, you had our names here. If I go back and I check the names here, we realize that these were the attributes. So the class was die and live, and then the age 10, and then this one was male and female, right? But inside our data set was 1 and 2, right? So we're using the same details here to map it so that to the user is going to see these ones, but the backend, the machine learning, is going to see it as numerical data, not as categorical data. That's the basic idea behind that. So I'll come back to this place, and then let's create a simple one for all of them, because if you check this that we were using, most of them are no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, and then no was 1, yes was 2, right? So since it's going to be the same for most of them, we just create a simple dictionary to use it for all of them, right? So let's come back here and try that one out. So the first one is that, let's come back here. So this is going to be my gender dictionary. Then this will take the male, as we saw there. So male was 1, and then female was 2, right? Right, that is it, right? Then let's create the one for all of them. So let's put as my feature dictionary, which will take the option of no for 1, and then yes was going to be for 2, right? Based on our data set. That's all we need, right? Now let's create another function to help us get the value and then get the other stuff. So we can call it as this. So def get value, then let's call that my value, then I'll pass in the dictionary. spell dictionary, right? Then it's going to be for key and then value in my dictionary dot items. If the key is the same, so if the value is same as the key, return that particular value. Right, so this same function can be repeated to get the keys. So copy this one and let's use it to get the keys, right? So instead of using this one, I'll bring the dictionary here. I'll bring the dictionary into our data, which is going to be my feature dictionary, which is the same thing here. We have it as no, go to 1, and then yes, it's go to 2, right? You can call this one as sorry, call it as feature dictionary or anyhow you want it to be, right? So let's call it as feature dictionary. Perfect. So now this time you're not returning the this time you're not returning, we're not comparing it against a particular dictionary. The dictionary is within, right? And we return the value. Then also do another one for returning the key. So this one is going to be this. So let's call this one as return the feature value, right? And this is going to be return key. Since we are doing everything from scratch, that's why it is like that. Apologies. So now in this case, if it is true, I want you to return the key, not the value. Perfect. That is something simple, right? We are done with that. Now let's create another function to load our model. So df.load model. I'm passing my model file. Another function we are creating to help us load our model. Let's call that loaded model. It's going to be, we are using job lib to help us with that. So load open os dot part. You can use partlib if you want. Dot join. Then I'll pass in my model file. Then let's open it as read write. Read write. Perfect. Right, then I'm going to return the loaded model. That is all right. So we have this function to load our model, ML models, and this one's how to get the key, get the feature value, and then get the value itself. That is something simple that we have done, right? We are done with this. So let's come back to here, and then we will start acting on it. So we have our gender dictionary. So this is going to be in the format of a tuple. So it's going to be tuple. Then I'm going to convert the dictionary dot key. So you're only getting the keys, you're only getting the numbers. So if I save it and I come back and check what you have done so far, right? So you can see that now we have the male and the female instead of getting the 1 and the 2. So the 1 and the 2 is going to be at the back end. So after the person has selected it as male and female, we will now convert it into the numbers, right? Into the numerical data. That is a basic understanding behind it, right? Very interesting. We are done for that one. Now let's move on to the next one. So since the next one is going to be my steroid, right? It's going to be st.radio. Then here is going to be, so do you take steroids, right? It's a question, yes or no. And then I can now go with my tuple, the same thing I did. Then I'll pass in the feature dictionary, right? The feature dictionary is the yes and no, right? Dot keys. Then I'll pass in the, that's all. So if I save it, you're going to see that it is yes and no. String update has no attribute tuple, right? So this must be this option. Now you're going to see it here, right? Do you take steroids? Yes and no, right? Very interesting. That is for the steroids. We can also do the same thing for the antivirus. So let's come back here. I'll copy this one, paste for the antivirus. Then we can change this one from steroids to antivirus. Antiviral. Then do you take antivirals or antivirus? Hepatitis antivirus. Acyclovir. Okay, right, something like that. It's not acyclovir, acyclovir for influenza. So perfect, so something like that, right? We are done with the antivirus option. Then the next one is going to be spider spiders, it's going to be st.radio. Then tell the person, is there a presence of spider naivi? I don't know how to spell it. Yeah, naivi, something like that. I've forgotten the spelling, but we can just check it out later. Then there's going to be feature dictionary dot keys. Then the next one is going to be ascites. The person have ascites, so let's change it from radio button to select box. Then I'll pass in the ascites. Then I'll pass in the same thing there, which is going to be the tuple to bracket feature dictionary dot key. So making it like this make it quite easier. So let's check it and see what you have done. Right, so now inside the ascites option, you can set no or yes. Right, we have no. Let's take out this. No, yes, right, perfect. Everything is working as expected. So ascites. So let's try the same thing for the rest. So I'll just copy and paste. Since you have got an idea, I'll copy and paste them to make it easy for us, right? Otherwise, it take a lot of time typing all of these things. So I've copied and pasted it to save us time. So if I come back here, and now everything is there, right? So we have our histology, everything. So that's the basic idea. The same thing we did above is what you are doing. So you're either using number input, radio button, select box, or the number input, right? And you have set the parameters based on how our data set was, right? That is the basic understanding behind it. Now let's store everything that you get into a particular list. So I'll call that feature list. So I'll be using the function that get value to be converting everything, and then this one is going to be get, we call it as feature value. Let's make it f, right? Feature value is long. Let's call that one as f. I'm changing this one get feature value to get f value to make it short, right? Otherwise it will be too long. So whatever the person type is going to be stored into that particular list, which we will be using or be sending to our model. So if I go with this thing st.write my feature list, let's check it and see. So keep the person select in value. So these are the values there, right? And it has automatically converted them into numerical data instead of it being just like the yes and no or the male or female. It has converted them into numerical data, right? Very interesting and very simple. That is something very cool. Now let's go back again and then let's make it in the format of a JSON. So let's call that one as sample data. We will make it in the format of a JSON so that, or sample result rather, or single result. I'll call that, let's make it pretty results, right? We have prettified them in the format of a JSON. So I'm using a simple dictionary age, then I'll pass in the age, right? Then the same thing for the rest, right? Sex, steward, right? So that the person will know what he expects. If I save this one and I come back and I do st.json pretty result, and that is going to be in a format of a JSON, right? Something simple like that, right? So that the person will actually know that he has picked these particular ones, and that is what it meant. This is what you'll be sending to the ML model, but this is what the person is going to see, that okay, these are the values that I've selected and these are the values that I will be sending, right? So let's add them to it to make it easier. So I'll paste it here. Perfect, right? So that if I go back and I check it again, now it's going to be in a nicer format, right? So we see that these are what the person selected, male, no, right? But this is what's going to be sent to the ML algorithm, but we have to reshape it to make it better, right? As we learned previously. Otherwise it's going to see it as a lot of features, but it's supposed to see it as a simple single sample with all the features together, right? So let's reshape that. So let's call this single data, right? Or single sample, which is going to be in this format. So in numpy.array, that's where we are using the numpy. I'm going to pass in my feature list. Then I'm going to reshape it .reshape, which is going to reshape it as 1 minus 1, right? So this is what we'll be sending into our ML algorithm. So let's create our ML aspect. So model choice. Then this is going to be st.select box. Now pass in our option of select model. So we have these models that the person can use. So we have, let's make it like this, logistic regression. We have another one for KNN. Yeah, we had another one for decision tree. So decision tree. Right, these are the three main models that we have. Now I'm going to tell the person that if st.button predict, then choose a model. So if model, use a model that the person has chosen. So if model is equal to KNN, right, I want you to load. So look at the loaded model. Then I'll just pass in the load model function. So this load model function is the function that we created above, right? We created that particular function here, this particular function. That's what I'm using. So if that is the case, then go into this particular folder, this our models folder here, which has all the models. So we have decision tree, classifier model, Hep-B, KNN Hep-B model, logistic regression Hep-B model. So we'll be loading those ones here, right? So just come back here, go into that particular folder, which is going to be my models folder. Then you select the particular model. So KNN model Hep-B model dot pickle. That is all, right? That is the first stuff. Then go to store inside this loaded model, or you can even call it as model in how you want to do it. I'm going to call it as prediction, which is going to be the loaded model dot predict. Then I'll pass in my single sample, right? Then now I can also print it out. So let's go with this option, st.write prediction, and let's try it out. So let's save it and let's see whether it's going to work. So let's take off this one. We are sending the same thing that we have done, so that we have the option of selecting LR, KNN, and then decision tree. So let's use KNN, click on the predict. It's going to write it and give us our result. Hopefully there's no mistake. So query data dimension must match training data sample, right? The reason is that we had more, right? So we have to make sure that we are using the same number, not less, right? So let's check and fix that one out. So let's check with the shape of this, the st.write, the length of this my feature list. How many was it? 13, right? So I think in a one we did it was 14. I'm not sure, but I think it was 14. So we can just check it out and make sure that it is the same, right? And this one is also 14. So if I go back to the feature name best, this was 14, right? So we had fatigue here. Fatigue was the additional one that we added. So we have to add fatigue here because we said there's no fatigue here. There is only ascites there. So let's check for the location that we had fatigue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So fatigue was after antivirus, right? So just come back to the same place. Then we'll just create another one like that. So copy this one. And then let's change this one from antivirus to fatigue. The position matters very well. Fatigue, right? Then, do you have fatigue? Do you have fatigue? Yes or no? Fatigue, right? So that is going to be another one. That is going to be added to it, right? So we have, do you have fatigue also being added to it? So do you have fatigue before the spider nearby? Perfect. Hopefully everything is as expected, is as it was, right? Spiders, berries, perfect. Okay, so we are done with that. Now let's add that one to it. So we'll be adding that one to here. So I've added it to this place. So I've added fatigue to our single sample, the feature list, and as well as our prettified results. If I save it and I come back and I check, now the length must be 14, right? So now if you check it, the length is 14. Perfect. Just as we train our data set. So now let's try that and do some prediction. Click on it. Hopefully it doesn't give us any error. Perfect. So it gives us 2. So you have to make sure that this one looks user friendly, right? 2, the person may not know what it means, but from our data set we realize that 2 means alive, right? So let's work on it. So just come back here, then you add the remaining models to it. So let's try that one out. But it would be very nice if you are also able to tell the person the probability of that prediction. So that can be something like this. You can use prediction. Let's go as predict probability probe. Then we use the loaded model dot predict prober. Now passing my single sample, right? So now I can actually tell the user that particular stuff, right? So you can just tell the user the probability that the person has, right? So let's make it like this option, right? Predict prober. No, this one, predict prober. It can be predict prober or predict probe as you want it to be. So let's check it. Now let's click on the predict. If I click on the predict, you're going to see not only just the prediction, right? So this is the prediction and this is the probability, right? Which is not the best. So we have to make sure that we find a means of making it give us the actual value, right? Not just something like that. So let's see how to fix that. So I'll just come back here. So I can just come back here. Let's add the remaining models, right? So I'll just change it and add the remaining models before we move on. So let's uncomment this one out, take this one out, and let's go with else if choice, model choice. Let's go to decision tree. Then we're going to do the same thing, but we're using, in this case, we're using decision tree to help us with that. So I'll copy this. Right, then this will be using else. So by default, we'll be using logistic regression. So this is going to be the default one using logistic regression. So logistic regression, and this is going to be using decision tree. So all of these models that we are using is coming from the one that we saved, right? So you have to make sure that the names are the same. So this is going to be decision tree CLF Hep model, right? And this one is logistic regression Hep model. Apologies for that. Right, perfect. So that is something simple. Now you have been able to see the option of using different models. Now let's come back here. Then from here, we're going to tell the user that if so st.write, then we'll pass in our prediction for all of them, right? Very interesting. But we can also make it better by going with like final result, not just the numbers, but final result. So we're using the get key. Then I'll pass in the prediction. Then we will map it to a particular dictionary. So let's bring the dictionary here. So this was the prediction label. So the prediction label is going to consist of the dictionary of the die. So die was 1, and then leave was 2. Right, something like that. So I'll pass it here. Prediction label, right? Perfect. That is something simple. Then I'm going to say something like that. So with this option, it's easy for us. So I can now just go straight away with my st.write final result. So let's save it and see. This one of the ways of doing it, but we can use the longer format. So if I click on predict, now it's going to give us the actual value, which was 2, and then this one is giving us as none, right? Because we couldn't find it. That means that there's a mistake somewhere, so we have to fix that one out. Or instead of you using this particular dictionary like this, right, we can just go straight away with this option. So let's take off this. No. This one off, and let's use this option. So if the prediction is equal to 1, right? If the prediction is equal to 1, just go with st.warning patient dies, right? Something like that. Then something simple, else prediction is equal to 2, right? This is for the 2 st dot success patient leaves. So if I say this, and this is better, right? So if it is 1, the patient dies. If it is 2, the patient leaves. I think we made a mistake somewhere. We are making a lot of mistakes. Apologies for that. We are doing everything from scratch. We don't have else predictions, else. So either 1 or 2. Right, so if I click on it, if the patient is going to leave, it's going to tell us that patient leaves, right, which is 2, right? Perfect. So everything is working as expected. Now it's better we give the probability score, right, and show the probability for that particular prediction, why it is giving us that particular option. So in that case, we can just do something like this: predict probability probability, or we can just call it prediction score, probability score, which is going to be like this. So die, then pass in our predict proba, the first value, then the next value, right? And do the same thing for the leaf. So copy this one here, then pass it here. So this is going to be 1, so 0 and then 1. So this is going to be my leaf, or life, or the person's alive. Perfect. So I can go with st.subheader prediction probability score using the particular model that the person has supplied dot format. So we pass in the model choice, and then right, the model choice. And I can just go to st.json, and I pass in my prediction probability score. So let's save it and see whether it's going to work. So I'll just come back here, click on predict. Right, perfect. So this, when I click on the predictor, now it's giving us this, right, 0 and 1, but it's not the best. The best option is to multiply it by 10. So I'll just multiply this one by 10, by 100 rather. So just like 100%, right? So our model, remember that when we use this particular cadence, the probability was very good, right? The prediction score or the accuracy score was good. That's why now in this case it's giving us as 100, right? 10. So the patient is going to, the probability that the patient is going to leave based on this particular parameter is 100. Let's modify them, right? I'm going to be changing them. So let's change the protracting time from 0 to, let's say, 660, right? And then for the albumin, let's make it as, so I've modified the values, right? I've modified the values so that at least looks different. And then so this is the values that you have. These are the values that you have, right? So let's use the same model. So I click on predict. Now it's going to predict patient leaves, and it's giving us almost the same probability. Let's use a different model. So let's use a model like this. Click on predict. And now the patient, using the logistic regression, the patient is also going to leave, but the probability is 57%, right? Sure that the person is going to leave. That is how to build something simple using all that you have learned so far. You have seen how to use Streamlit to make to convert our models into something useful, right, by using this particular option. So to recap all that you have done so far, we just used Streamlit, or Streamlit, anyhow you call it, as our main package. Then we imported our EDA packages like pandas and NumPy. Pandas to read our data frame, NumPy to reshape it. We are using JobLib, HashLib, and OS to help us with our password encryption, loading of our model, and loading of our file. And then Matplotlib to help us with our plots. Then ManageDB to help us with our login and sign up. And then these ones to help us secure our passwords. Then we created 2 dictionaries, one for the male and female, right? Another one for the dictionary, because most of our data set were 1 and 2 in the data set, but they mean no and yes, right? So as we don't have just categorical data, but we have numerical data, right? Perfect. And then we did the remaining aspect. Very nice. So let's see, our app is working perfectly well. the most important feature of the app is working well. So we can take off this particular one so that it looks nice. Right. So perfect. So that is something very simple. If I click on it, it's going to bring it up perfectly for us. Very cool, right? Nice. Now the other thing we have to do is to interpret our model. So I'll just paste it there to save us time, because otherwise it take a lot of time. So let's go as if st.interpret st.interpret checkbox, then interpret, right, which is going to be something simple because it's becoming noisy here. So this is a code there. So the model, that is the person load, right? Or we can just use any of them, but we can just pass this loaded model into this particular function. We can nest it well. So let's try that one out. Perfect. So everything is working as expected, right? So let's work on the interpretation. So I'll copy it and paste it to save us time. So first of all, we need to import this particular package. So be importing lime, and then import lime, and then import lime.lime tabla, right, to help us with our interpretation. So the same thing that we did previously is what we're doing here. So let's come back here and let's work on it. So I'll just come back to this same place and let's put it here, right? Let's paste it like this, right? Perfect. So we have created another session in which if the person selects a particular model, whether it is KNN, decision tree, or logic regression, we'll be using that one to help us interpret it. So this is the same thing that we did in the previous tutorial, in which we had our data set, we had our S features, and then our feature name and our class name. Then we created an explainer in the previous tutorial. Then we are passing in our values, the feature names, the class name, and then the secretize. Then we are going to create an explainer. I'm going to create an explainer instance, and I'm going to pass in as an array our feature list. So this feature list is the thing that the person selected above here, right? This particular stuff, these values, right? That's what you're trying to convert it as an array. Then we use pass inside our explainer. Then we're going to show it inside our into our place, right? Into the right place here. So if I save it and let's click on predict, it's going to give us our prediction. Perfect. But if I go back to the interpret, anyhow you call it, it's giving us an error. But let's try it out again. Let's check it again. Right, it's not working because it's failing. So let's indent it well, right? So we're going to be indenting it well. So I take off this, right, so that it's totally different from the other one. So let's see where it is. Yeah, right, it's in the right location. So let's save it. It is under the same place as we have the predict button. So it's totally outside, right? So I can click on that one alone without even clicking on the predict. It's going to give us our interpretation, right? So that's giving us our prediction in a not that nice way, but at least we understood why it's giving us that. And if you check the plot, now the plot is this, right? So these are custom plots that we created, or the other plots. So the red, you have two colors, the green and then the red, right? And we have to make sure that we made this one better. That's going to be an assignment for you, right? It's not that clear, but you have to find a way of fixing it in the future. So that is how to start from scratch using our data set from somewhere, then follow in through the data science life cycle to be able to build something interesting, something very cool. So the rest will be left for you. The beautification of the app and all of these things can be done separately, right? But that is just the point behind what that you have built. So we have been able to see the workflow. We started with getting a data set, we prepped the data, we did simple EDA and then feature engineering, then we built our model, serialized our model, evaluated it, then we have converted all that we did into a simple web application using Streamlit, right? Something very simple. So we have been able to go through our workflow, right? From here to here to here to here to here, then to here. So that is something simple that you have done. You have done something simple, but you are not going to deploy it, as we said earlier on. So to recap, all that we did was that we just imported the basic stuff we do, the core packages, all our packages. We created another simple function for managing our database with SQLite, one to create our table, one to add our data, one to log in to the users. Then we created another session to hash and protect our password. Then we had some simple dictionary and list to help us to map our values, right, from categorical data to numerical. Create some function to help us do that. Then another function to load our model. Then we imported the packages to help us interpret our model. Then we just did the basic stuff we did. So we had two menus, the home and the sub menu. We did the EDA and then the rest. Right. Then we created some sections to receive input from the user. Then another section to choose a particular model if the person selected that model. Then we brought out the result, right? Something very simple, something very cool. So thank you for watching this long tutorial. Hope you have learned something. In case you have any question or contribution, you can just put inside the comment section below. See you another time. The code will be below so that you can also check it out. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. Stay blessed. Bye.